You're listening to the Active Together podcast, brought to you by Get Out, Get Active, also known as GoGo.
Hello, a warm welcome. It's the first ever Active Together podcast with me, Sam Lloyd, where we'll be talking to people all around the country about being active together. And I'm absolutely delighted that my first guests are two gentlemen from Nottinghamshire, from Bassetlaw Action Centre, the men's walk and talk sessions. So it's a huge welcome to Norman Shaw and Simon Booth. How are we, gents? We okay?
Yeah, we're fine, thank you.
Very well indeed, thank you.
Excellent stuff. Norman, if I can start with you, I think we need to start from the very, very beginning. Tell us how these sessions came about in the first place.
Well, it's a national charity, the Men's Walk Talk, and we'd seen it advertised, and we decided to get involved with them and with the Go Out, Get Active as well. And it was just a group, we set it up. And I mean, I've suffered with mental health issues myself for long term, and it was just a great idea. There's nothing out there for men, so we just want to try and get men out, get them active and get them chatting. So that's how it all came about.
And so did you feel that in your particular region that there wasn't anything for you personally? Because that's where this journey really starts, doesn't it, you know?
Myself personally, I didn't feel there was anything out there for me, to go to. I mean, so it was just, it was a great idea and something I jumped at to try and help myself and others like me. So, yeah.
And of course, it snowballed then. So you had this notion, you had this idea, but then how did you actually then put it into practice?
The first ever one we did was at Idle Valley, which is a local nature reserve just outside Retford. We all met up and it was chucking it down with rain, but we still, went out and enjoyed it. It was, really great. And we've been running it since then. 2 locations in Retford itself. We do the Idle Valley, and then we do the local park, Kings Park. And then, as I say, there's Simon who does Langold at Worksop. So it's, snowballed from there. And they say it's, nice to do it. It runs 3 times a month. So it's, it's something for people to get out and get active with.
Simon, let's bring you into the conversation here, because how did you personally get involved then?
So it's a bit of a long story, but I'll pray see it for you.
We've got time.
So my wife and I, we moved up we used to live just outside Guildford in Surrey. We moved up in 2017, primarily because we wanted to change a lifestyle. We both decided it was time to give up work. And by moving up to this part of the country, we were able to do so for obvious reasons. I've always been around mental health, partly through my job, where I used to work at a university, and I used to do a lot of mentoring, both to students and staff. And as you could probably guess, a lot of that is based around issues with coping with life, really, and the changes that going to a university bring and the pressures that also come along with that. I'm also the fact that my daughter has got bipolar, and my eldest brother is a schizophrenic. So I've always been around people that have suffered with mental health basically through the whole of my life. And I've just found myself in a fortunate position of, now that I don't work, I've got more time to volunteer and more time to give something back. And so based upon those sort of where I'd started the journey from, I thought the Men's Walk and Talk would be a really good thing. I also run a run club, which is actually held in a National Trust property called Clumber Park, which was originally where we were looking to do something to support Men's Walk Talk. But there are some challenges that you have to look towards about how people might be able to get to places, to come along for the session. And of course, there is not a lot of public transport to get into Clumber Park. So hence why Langold was chosen as our venue, because we wanted to be within Worksop sort of area. And it's a nice location, and it's got a lovely lake. So that's basically where it all came from. I would just add that Men's Walk and Talk have been very supportive and also gave us some mental health training. So we are both registered mental health first aiders, which basically teaches us the basics of how you go about supporting people that sometimes might be a little bit struggling with, day-to-day challenges. Now, as we know with men, it's very often for them to open up and want to look for a little bit of help. So I think Norman and I are both quite good in running our sessions in the way it's just about a group of lads going out, having a bit of fresh air, having a good old chat, and just encouraging them to maybe, if they want to share how they're feeling in themselves, and they can. If they don't, then we just, talk football and all sorts of random things.
Yes.
I want to pick up on that point if I can, because it's a really good point. Because, Norman, there is that kind of stigma that men especially struggle to reach out and to talk about their innermost feelings. And obviously, these kind of sessions are invaluable in how they help to engage. And as you say, they might want to talk, they might not want to talk about anything relevant. How hard did you find it when, by your own admission, suffering with mental health, to actually speak out, talk, chat to people?
It is hard, and I'd say, and I try to encourage it with the group, within the group, and that, and then the group, we do have regulars who come every week and every time, and they are very open. I mean, I try to be as open with the group as they are, because if they see you being open,
yes,
they see you expressing how you feel, they're more inclined to express it themselves. But yeah, no, it is hard. I mean, I found it hard. I do still find it hard to, sometimes I feel, it's, to express what I'm saying to, what I want to say to them, because in some senses I'm there as a leader, as a, someone to look up to. But I mean, I had it this last week. I mean, it was our walk last Saturday, and I opened up to the group, opened up because we couldn't go for a walk because of the weather, and it did shock a few of them that were in the group to think, well, he has it just as bad as us. And I think that made the group a lot more open, and there was a lot more discussion then around their own personal mental health as well as mine. So it is. And
Simon, it seems to be a bit of a common theme here. There seems to be a connection with nature and walking. And I guess nature's very sensory, isn't it? Let's face it. It's a great kind of common platform for discussion. But also, perhaps you can talk to us about the importance of being active together in the outside.
Okay, well, one of the great things about when you take these sorts of sessions and you're having them outside is the fact that people feel a lot more comfortable when they're going for a nice walk. It's just natural in yourselves. If you say to you, I've been involved in some quite challenging situations with people when I was working, and when you get them inside that sort of therapy environment, whether it be an office or a room with a couch and that sort of thing, people don't feel comfortable and they don't feel relaxed. When you get somebody out and you get them being a bit active, you've instantly got something you can talk about, the trees, the weather, how they're feeling with the walking motions and all those sorts of things. So in one respect, you start to feel the warmth of where you are, helping you feel a lot more relaxed in yourself. And one of the guys that I regularly see, he actually even struggles to walk. So it's an added bonus for him in the fact that he is getting out, he is being a bit active. I mean, we don't walk far, we don't walk at a huge pace, and we're conscious of the people and the surroundings and use those as a tool to help us then engage in conversation.
Mm. And Norman, when you obviously kick-started these sessions, were you surprised by the demand? Because obviously you've got a very active group of individuals, like-minded, who some come, as you mentioned, regularly. Others just come when they feel they need it as support.
And I say it did shock me quite with the demand and that. As I say, it's people. the more people we do, that are coming along to it and that, and then we do get, as you say, we get some people who will drop in for a couple of sessions and then probably not see him for a few and then see him again, when it is. But then we do have the regulars that come every week. They enjoy the walks, enjoy the getting out and being active, and just, football's discussed, everything else is discussed and all that. So it is really, good to know that people, the demand's there and people want it, and it's really nice.
And Simon, what's the sense of unity like as a group? Because no doubt these individuals feel this is a safe place, but no doubt they're making friends, and that kind of sense of community must have really grown and developed.
Yeah, a bit like Norman says, it's always a bit of a minor challenge to get to that point, because we know with men, sometimes, finding the courage to actually come in the first place is quite a bit of a challenge for them. And then for them to regularly come becomes even more of a challenge. So you do get a lot of butterfly effect, where you get people just dropping in and then they'll drop out again, and you might not see somebody for a couple of months and then they come again. But it's great that slowly men are starting to realise that you can talk about it. You don't have to be, I don't want to put a brave face on everything. And then as long as the environment feels safe to you as an individual, it helps hugely. And I feel the community starts to grow because you think about, often I'll say to people, what have you been up to? What's been going on for the last couple of weeks? And you find out that they say things like, oh, I went to so-and-so with so-and-so and we chatted about this and we chatted about that. And it starts to show that they're getting a lot more confidence to communicate about other things, about, I don't like to use the phrase meaningful things, but do you know what I mean? A bit more personal and a bit more deep, and realise that they are in a safe place. It's always difficult for Norman and I, because sometimes you can hear things that maybe we then take away and think, well, we need to find a way of being able to share those for our own well-being, because sometimes when you carry somebody else's burden, dare I say, that it's quite difficult as you are an individual. Yeah. And Men's Walk Talk does give us those openings where we can then go back and in effect almost get our own mini counselling or support on how we're dealing with things.
And Norman, try to put into words what kind of impact and influence GOGA, Get Out, Get Active, has had on these sessions.
The support from the GOGA and that we've had with setting the group up, as I say, the T-shirts that we wear.
Love those.
With hoodies, raincoats, all the support. I say the support that's there from Go Out, Get Active as us as leaders. As I say, as Simon said, sometimes you hear things, sometimes you can feel a bit under the weather yourself, but there's always that support in the background from the Go Out, Get Active just to speak to and in sense offload to, because sometimes you have to. Also, the other thing as well is the support there. If we hear something that does really concern us, we know we've got an avenue to go back to with the Go Out, Get Active and say, this has come, this has happened, we need some help and assistance. And then the ball starts rolling with everything, and it's really good for that, And I think the idea of trying to get people out and active, it's natural endorphins. It helps people naturally feel better than, anyway, without having to take medication and stuff like that. So, it's really good that, we get all that promotion and that support from the Go Out, Get Active.
And would you say the offering is very inclusive as well? I mean, you literally reach out to anyone.
Yeah, we reach out to anyone. I mean, we've adapted our walks in the past for, as I say, Simon says he's got someone who doesn't walk very well. I mean, I've had a client who brings his mobility scooter because he can't walk, but he's getting out. It's still getting him out. He's getting the fresh air. He's getting the talking and that. So it is, we will help with that. We will adapt the group and manage it for anybody with a disability. It's fully, we're trying to make sure it's fully accessible to everybody of every, disability or, anything as that sort.
Yeah.
Simon, you've teased us about the sessions. Give us a bit of an overview. I know we're kind of connecting with nature, but, what's a typical month for you guys at Bassetlaw?
the most important thing is the fact that I'm always there. Come rain or shine, I will turn up at the agreed time. I usually get there about 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes before, and I'll stand there looking and smiling happily with my shirt on and my badge on and that sort of stuff. And you just sort of wait for people to turn up. Now, if nobody turns up, the way I personally deal with that is I say, I see that as a good sign because nobody needed me that week. I never look at it and say, oh my God, nobody's bothered to come, blah, blah, blah. But some people, other things go on their lives. But usually, you get 1, 2, 3, 4. To be honest, more than 4 starts to become a bit of a struggle when you've only got one leader.
Yes.
Because you can't really support in the right way, because it is about engagement. It is about starting a conversation, whatever that conversation might be about. And as Norman said earlier on, is that sometimes when you get people for the first time, explaining who you are and your story and why you're actually there doing it makes people maybe start to understand the fact that you can talk about it. Because I'm very open and I'm very honest about it. Both my brother and my daughter, they are suicide survivors as well. And I'm not afraid to mention that, and I'm not afraid to talk about that, because it's important that they understand that I'm being open and honest with them. And we literally do just walk and talk, like it says on the T-shirt, really.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to work a little bit, especially with somebody new, to find out what it is that maybe you can find something that means a lot to them, whatever that might be. Well, for an example, I don't think I'm giving anything away here. We have one gentleman that comes and he loves trains. So if you can get him engaged on the subject of trains, then all of a sudden he starts to open up, he starts to talk, he starts to engage, and then you can build on that conversation. One thing we learn is conversational skills, so that we know a way to tease the conversation out of people. And then we have a nice little walk round, and if they want to stop and have a coffee and a chat, or a bit of cake, then we'll do that as well. Or if they're rushing off somewhere, we add that level of flexibility into our sessions.
Yeah. And from your perspective, Norman, I mean, all credit to you. You're two incredibly inspirational individuals, but all credit to you to kind of see that this was needed from your own personal experience. But how cathartic have you found it from a personal perspective that you're helping others? Because it must be incredibly rewarding for you as an individual, considering your own battle, shall we say, where you've been very honest and candid about, mental health.
I've got to admit, it has kept me going, in my, really to start it up. It was something I felt was needed, and I needed to do for myself more than anything, just as much as anyone else. I mean, I've always said with the group, and I've always said with with it, I would run the group if it was one person there or if there was 10, because that one person may turn up and just need your assistance that one day. And if I can, as hard as it is, save one person's life, it makes me feel better, and I do feel so rewarded. Knowing that they go away and they, and they are feeling better, and I feel better because I get a chance to offload some of my thing, that I wouldn't normally speak to other people about. And it is so amazing for that. I just think it does make it worth so while to do.
And I know friendships have been formed and developed, but as you mentioned, Simon, some people just come once, because sometimes people find it so much easier to talk to a stranger, not in their immediate network, be it work, be it friendship, being family. That kind of impartiality is a huge kind of confidence for any individual to talk to somebody they may never have encountered before.
You do notice that, and it's always good to act quickly with people. So if I do see somebody for the first time and they do start to open up, I'll say to them, I'll bring up some signposting ideas for them. So maybe just the fact that they're meeting with me, having a conversation with me, and it gives me the opportunity to say, well, have you gone and seen this? Have you tried maybe doing that? Those sorts of things, because just hearing it, shall we say, from a complete stranger is really quite rewarding for them. And just picking up on what Norman said about the benefits of volunteering, I know I love volunteering. Now, I do quite a bit of it. And that's not because I found it a replacement for the fact that I don't work anymore, because I've stopped working. I call myself unwaged. I feel too young to say retired. So
you're still valuable. You're still valuable.
So that's how I classify myself. And volunteering, no matter what it might be, personally, is really very rewarding. Whoever the volunteer is, you'll find that they do seek and get great enjoyment out of it. And it's a very, very rewarding thing to do. The great beauty with Men's Walk and Talk is that you do feel that little bit more rewarded, because you feel like you're giving somebody a little bit more help and support.
And Norman, anyone watching or listening to this podcast, you're obviously doing a phenomenal job in your area of the UK. But if anyone feels really inspired to try and create something in their own area, just what advice would you give?
The advice I would give if you're wanting to set up one of these groups is, first thing is your location. I mean, we picked locations where there's cafes. Yeah. You start at a cafe. It's a focal point people know. So it's, and it's an easy point to find. The other option there is if it is foul weather or if it is bad or anything, you've got somewhere else to go and sit and chat. And also, as I say, after you've been on the walk, it's somewhere else to sit and carry on with the chat. Because you usually start at a cafe and we finish at a cafe. And it was some of the, we were advised by the men's walk talk group, was, as I say, start at a cafe, even if it's not a cafe, if it's just a eating venue, like a pop-up, sandwich bar or something like that. Just a focal point where people can meet and not feel uneasy about meeting. And that's the other thing as well.
Yeah, it's kind of knocking down those boundaries, Simon, isn't it? To make it as easy and as accessible as possible.
Very much so. Yeah, it's really important to think carefully about your location and also to think carefully about the support. So working with a charity, being an extension of a charity, like Men's Walk and Talk, is really beneficial because, in the background, you've got guys that you can talk to. They can help you with marketing. They can help you with promotion. They can help you but primarily they can help you with support and guidance. Sometimes if you take something on your own and set something up, it's really difficult to find that infrastructure sitting there just to support you through those, dare I say, dark days, to be there to just mentor you as an individual. And that's really beneficial. But yeah, Norman is right, the location becomes really, really quite critical because it gives you those advantages if there is somewhere for a drink afterwards or before, and that sort of thing. And I also find that somewhere with not too large a car park, I had one gentleman that for 3 times just literally sat in his car and was trying to find the confidence to get out of his car. And eventually he did. Now, I didn't know that until the third occasion that he was there, and he said, "This isn't the first time that I've just sat there," and those sorts of things gives people that environment where they can do that sort of thing. Really beneficial.
And Norman, I hope you don't mind me asking you this, because you are very open and you are very candid about everything, your own personal journey. But anyone watching or listening this podcast who do need help, who are desperate to kind of reach out but don't actually know how to do it for whatever reason, confidence, fear, you name it, what would you say to them?
Make that step. It's a big step. It's a hard step. I do admit, from my own personal, problems and things like that. I mean, I've been a lot more open, I admit, with colleagues and friends since I've been doing the Men's Walk Talk than I ever was before that. But yeah, it is just a case of somebody, it is a big step. Try and make that step. Try not to do it alone. I mean, we've had a lot of people turn up to our groups with a friend, and then after a couple of sessions, the friend stopped coming because the person's had the confidence to come on their own. So, that's another great thing is, bring a friend, bring a family member. We've had, family members come along and that, just to support that person until they know what the group's about.
That's really good advice there.
Yeah.
Simon, this podcast is called Active Together. So I'm going to put you on the spot now, both of you. It's just Norman, you've got a bit more time because I'm starting with Simon. Active Together, in the context of what you do, how would you define that phrase?
I would say what we're trying to do is be active, but not individually, but together. That means both people that can help and people that need help. Because collectively, then when we do become together, we all end up helping each other, believe it or not. Because we as volunteers need those guys to come along so that we can be active together. Because without them, we're not going to be active. So that's what I would say.
Excellent. Very well done. No pressure, Norman.
No, yeah, as I say, it's literally what Simon says. The act is being active together, being as a group. It's the activity is getting out there, getting out in the weather, walking around, and it releasing them endorphins. It's at the end of the day, it's the best natural remedy for low mood and depression as it can be. And I think the support we've had from Go Out Get Active with getting people to come out and get active has been really good.
Well, I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed our chat, and what a fitting way to kickstart the Active Together podcasts. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you all the best in the future and the wonderful work that you're clearly doing in Nottinghamshire. But for now, Norman and Simon, thank you so much for joining us on the Active Together podcast.
You're listening to the Active Together podcast, brought to you by Get Out, Get Active, also known as GOGA.
If this story's inspired you, remember, it's not about what you do or how much you do. It all counts to get out and get active. And if you're part of an organisation wondering what you can do to help others to get active, visit getoutgetactive.co.uk, where you'll find lots of information and resources to help get you started.